Jennifer Osei sat in her rental apartment on a Sunday afternoon, scrolling through a mortgage pre-approval email she'd received that morning, and felt something she hadn't expected. Relief that she hadn't clicked accept. Her friends had been sending her listings for 8 months. Her parents asked about it at every dinner. Her coworker had just closed on a townhouse and posted 12 photos of a doorknob. Jennifer had run the numbers herself 3 times, and 3 times the math told her something that made her feel, briefly, like she was failing at being a responsible adult. Renting was going to make her richer than buying. Not maybe, not in some edge case, by a wide, repeatable margin given her actual numbers, not the ones everyone assumed she should be using.
Jennifer is 31. She works as a UX designer in Denver, earning $98,000 a year. She has $140,000 saved, enough for a serious down payment on a $520,000 starter home in a decent neighborhood, the kind of home her parents keep sending her links to. She is not anti-homeownership. She grew up in a house her parents still own, and she has no ideological objection to the idea. What she has is a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet does not care about doorknobs.
My name is Marcus Reyes, and this channel exists to run the numbers most people never get shown. Today, we're taking on the most emotionally loaded financial decision most people ever make, and we're going to strip the emotion out of it completely, just for the next 20 minutes, and look at what's actually underneath. If you've ever felt behind because you're still renting, or pressured into buying because everyone around you treats it as the responsible milestone, this video is for you. Subscribe, because we're about to walk through the exact comparison almost nobody runs correctly, and why the version you've been shown your whole life is missing more than half the picture. Here's the belief nearly everyone carries into this decision, and it's not an unreasonable one. Renting is throwing money away, and buying builds equity. You pay rent, and at the end of the year, you have nothing to show for it, except 12 receipts. You pay a mortgage, and at the end of the year, you own a little more of an appreciating asset. One is consumption. The other is investment. This framing is so deeply embedded in American financial culture that questioning it feels almost unpatriotic. And for a huge number of people, in a huge number of markets, at a huge number of moments in history, it has actually been true. The problem is that it isn't a law of physics. It's a conclusion that depends entirely on a set of numbers that change by city, by year, and by person. And almost nobody runs those numbers before accepting the conclusion as fixed.
Let's start with what buying that $520,000 house actually costs Jennifer. Not the mortgage payment, the actual full cost. Because this is where the standard comparison breaks down immediately. A 20% down payment is $104,000. Her monthly mortgage, principal, and interest at a 6.8% rate on a 30-year loan for the remaining $416,000 comes out to $2,712. Property taxes in her target neighborhood run roughly 0.7% annually, another $303 a month. Homeowners insurance adds $140 a month. And then there's the number almost every first-time buyer underestimates or ignores entirely: maintenance. The standard guidance from housing economists is to budget 1% to 2% of the home's value annually, just to maintain it, not upgrade it, maintain it. At the conservative 1% figure, that's $5,200 a year, or $433 a month. Add it up. $2,712 plus $303 plus $140 plus $433. Jennifer's true monthly cost of ownership is $3,588, not the $2,712 the mortgage calculator shows her. $3,588. Now, here's what renting an equivalent apartment costs Jennifer in her current market: $2,100 a month. That's a gap of $1,488 a month between what she'd pay to own and what she pays to rent every single month for as long as she stays in the home. The standard response to that gap is the equity argument. Sure, the monthly cost is higher, but you're building equity. so it's not really a cost, it's forced savings. This is the part where most comparisons stop, and it's exactly where the real analysis needs to start, because equity is not free. Equity is purchased with that $1,488 monthly gap, plus the opportunity cost of the $104,000 down payment. And the question that actually matters isn't whether buying builds equity. Of course it does. The question is whether that equity grows faster than what Jennifer could build by investing the difference instead. This is the calculation almost nobody runs, and it has a name in financial planning circles, the rent versus buy break-even analysis. And the version most people see online oversimplifies it so badly it's almost useless. Here's the version that actually accounts for everything. If Jennifer rents instead of buys, she keeps her $104,000 invested rather than locked into a down payment. She also invests the $1,488 monthly difference between renting and owning every single month, rather than sending it to a mortgage lender, a tax assessor, and a maintenance fund. At a conservative 7% average annual return invested in a simple diversified index fund, here's what happens over 10 years. The $104,000 down payment, left invested in compounding, grows to approximately $204,600. The $1,488 monthly difference, invested consistently over the same 10 years, grows to approximately $257,880, using standard compound growth on a monthly contribution at that same 7% rate. Combined, Jennifer's invested position after 10 years is approximately $462,440. Now compare that to the equity Jennifer would actually have in the house. Home price appreciation in her metro area has historically averaged around 3.8% annually, a reasonable, non-cherry-picked figure based on regional housing data over the past 2 decades. At that rate, her $520,000 home would be worth approximately $754,000 after 10 years. Subtract the remaining mortgage balance after 10 years of payments, roughly $349,000, and Jennifer's home equity comes out to approximately $405,000. Also subtract the real cost of selling, because home equity isn't liquid the way an index fund is. Realtor commissions, closing costs, and staging typically run 7 to 8% of the sale price. On a $754,000 sale, that's roughly $56,500 in exit costs. Jennifer's actual realized equity after selling, approximately $348,500. Renting and investing the difference, $462,400. Buying and building equity, $348,500. A gap of nearly $114,000 in favor of renting over just 10 years, using conservative, unglamorous assumptions on both sides. This is not a rigged comparison designed to make renting look good. This is what happens when you actually price in maintenance, opportunity cost, and exit friction, instead of stopping the analysis the moment the word equity shows up. One objection surfaces immediately, and it deserves a real answer, not a dismissal. What about the fact that Jennifer's rent will increase every year, while a fixed-rate mortgage payment stays the same? This is true, and it's the single strongest argument in favor of buying, so let's run it honestly. Assume Jennifer's rent increases at a moderate 3% annually, roughly in line with historical averages in stable markets. By year 10, her monthly rent has grown from $2,100 to approximately $2,821. Even so, because her starting gap was $1,488 a month and her mortgage payment doesn't move, the gap between renting and owning narrows every year, but doesn't fully close within the 10-year window in Jennifer's specific market. By year 10, the monthly gap has shrunk to roughly $767, still meaningfully in renting's favor, though the math clearly trends toward buying becoming competitive somewhere in the following decade if rent growth continues outpacing the fixed mortgage payment. This is an honest point in favor of buying over a longer time horizon, not a reason to dismiss the 10-year analysis, which is the time frame that actually matters for someone like Jennifer, who isn't certain she'll stay in this city for 20 years. That uncertainty is the second major factor almost no online rent versus buy calculator weighs correctly: how long you'll actually stay. The math we just walked through assumes Jennifer stays in the home for the full 10 years. If she buys and then needs to relocate for a job in year 3, a scenario that describes a huge share of people in her age bracket and industry, the exit friction alone, that 7 to 8% in realtor commissions and closing costs, can wipe out several years of equity gains entirely. Renters carry no equivalent penalty for leaving. This isn't a knock against home ownership. It's a mathematical fact about transaction costs. And it means the rent versus buy calculation isn't just about the city and the interest rate. It's about how confident you are in your own 5-year plan. And for a 31-year-old UX designer in a fast-moving industry, that confidence interval is wider than the real estate industry ever acknowledges.
Here's what's actually happening underneath why almost nobody runs this calculation honestly, and it's worth naming directly because it explains why the pressure Jennifer feels from her parents and her coworkers is so strong despite the math. Home ownership in American culture isn't just a financial decision. It's a status marker, a signal of adulthood, stability, and having arrived. Behavioral economists call this a social proof cascade. When enough people around you treat a decision as the obviously correct one, deviating from it starts to feel like a personal failing rather than a legitimate alternative choice, regardless of what the underlying numbers say. Jennifer's coworker posting photos of a doorknob isn't lying about being happy. He's also not running a rent versus buy analysis before posting it, because the culture doesn't ask him to. The decision has already been pre-approved by everyone around him, which means the math never has to justify itself.
There's a second mechanism running alongside the first, and it's about loss aversion applied specifically to visible versus invisible costs. Rent payments are viewed as a loss because they're visible, itemized, and recurring, a bank statement line you see every single month with nothing tangible attached to it. The opportunity cost of a down payment, by contrast, is invisible. Nobody sends Jennifer a monthly statement showing what her $104,000 would have grown into if she'd invested it instead. Because that cost never appears anywhere, it doesn't register as a cost at all, even though, as we just calculated, it's often larger than the visible one. Humans are consistently worse at weighing invisible opportunity costs than visible cash costs, even when the invisible cost is mathematically larger, and the entire home ownership as obviously correct narrative depends on that blind spot staying unexamined.
None of this means buying is wrong. It means buying is not automatically superior. And the version of the decision that gets marketed to people in their late 20s and early 30s skips the actual math in favor of a cultural script. So here's the honest framework, the one that actually determines which side of this decision makes sense for a specific person in a specific market, not a blanket rule in either direction. First, calculate your true monthly cost of ownership, not the mortgage payment. Add property taxes, insurance, and 1 to 2% of the home's value annually for maintenance. If you don't do this step, every subsequent step is built on a fake number. Second, calculate the realistic difference between that true ownership cost and the rent on a comparable property in the same market. This gap, not the mortgage payment alone, is what you'd be investing if you rented instead. Third, run the compound growth comparison honestly across multiple time horizons, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, because the break-even point shifts significantly depending on how long you actually stay, and shorter horizons overwhelmingly favor renting once transaction costs are included. Fourth, be honest about your own timeline uncertainty. If your industry, your relationship status, or your city commitment carries real 5-year uncertainty, weight the analysis more heavily toward renting because you're the one absorbing the transaction cost risk if the plan changes. Fifth, separate the financial question from the identity question entirely and answer them one at a time. It is completely legitimate to buy a home because you want the stability, the control over your space, the ability to paint a wall without asking permission, even if the math tilts toward renting. That's a real, valid reason to buy. What's not legitimate is calling that decision a financial slam dunk when the actual numbers, run honestly for your specific market and situation, say otherwise. Own the trade-off instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Jennifer's specific numbers in her specific market at this specific moment in the interest rate cycle favor renting by a wide and durable margin. Your numbers might not.
A market with lower price-to-rent ratios, a longer confirmed time horizon, or a fixed-rate mortgage locked in during a period of low interest rates can flip this analysis completely in the other direction. And that's the entire point. The answer isn't universal. The method is. Run your own true cost of ownership, your own actual rent comparison, your own timeline honesty, and let your specific numbers tell you the answer, instead of borrowing the answer from your coworker's doorknob photo. If this video changed how you think about a decision you assumed was already settled, the next step is running these numbers on your own market. Jennifer didn't click accept on that mortgage pre-approval email, not because she's against homeownership, and not because she's found some clever way to avoid becoming a responsible adult. She clicked delete because she ran the actual math for her actual life, and the math told her something different than the culture around her was telling her. Buying a home isn't automatically building wealth. Sometimes it's just building equity slower than the alternative you never bothered to calculate. Run the numbers before you borrow someone else's answer.